Okay, it has been a long day. That's all I can say. And I've been up since about 5 o'clock this morning so I could get up early, do my morning practice, get my butt over to the Tampa VA, and make my appointments. And I'm really happy. It went really, really well today. I mean, it's still a long ways to go, but I feel really confident in the doctor that I have now. She was very attentive. She listened. It really makes a difference to find a doctor who is willing to listen to you and take down copious notes, take down, clear notes, putting in their notes and details as to what they are witnessing in you and also what you're sharing with them, and not assuming or creating something out of it with the projection. So what was really nice is I brought up everything that was bothering me. The mark on my butt that I mentioned yesterday that I was a little concerned about, she said just keep an eye on it. If it gets, bigger or, changes in colors and such, she said just keep an eye on it. She said it doesn't look really bad from where I'm looking, but that's what you do. So the irony is in everything that I shared with her, and I especially was discussing the situation with my teeth and the jaw, and even she said, with all the description and all of what I've explained, she said, well, it sounds like TMJ to me. I didn't even say TMJ. I didn't even write down TMJ. All I did was explain what was going on. And here's a doctor looking at me saying it sounds like TMJ. I said, well, it's funny you say that. I said, because that's one of the struggles that I'm having with my benefits and getting the appeal through, is getting them to recognize TMJ. I said, when I was trying to get, they call it compensation and they put you through all these different little tests evaluating you. They put those. Some of you may have done this before, where they say, okay, range of motion test. They have this plastic ruler that has a movement in it, and they put, how far can you turn your head, how far can you go forward, how far can you go back, open your jaw, put clamp down, what's the dimensions. I mean, I don't even know if that's relevant. I mean, nobody can compare one person to another. I don't even know where they come up with this stuff. To some degree, maybe, but if somebody is telling you how they feel, isn't that more relevant? I mean, you could open your mouth as wide. That doesn't make it make it comfortable for the person. Just talking about that makes me sore. So I explained to her that basically when the dentist at the VA saw me during that time, he called it something else. He called it bruxism. I said, now, I don't know if that's just trying to get away from than using the word TMJ, temporomandibular juxtaposition or something like that, I think. I can't remember what the J is. Juxtaposition, maybe. It creates the popping and the grinding and, the stress. And I shared with her what I shared with the emergency doctor about how ultimately when they took the x-rays, which are in my records, x-rays with and without the bite that I had made, it showed significant spacing between versus compression between each of my vertebrae and my cervical spine. Now, what does that mean? I got pinched nerves, and it degenerates and it wears on the discs if you don't have the space between them. And here I am having all this nerve sensation down my arm. I shared with her back when I hit my head when I was working in Italy. They had me on steroids, gabapentin, Neurontin, nerve dulling sensations. I said, I'm so grateful that I had not only a friend, but a referral to a neurological doctor who said, if I give you a shot of steroids, what it does to your body is wear away at the cushion that you need between each of those vertebrae. And if you hurt yourself, then you won't know until it wears off. So the nerve pain that you feel is a good thing, because that's your body signaling, saying, hey, I'm still alive, I'm trying to repair myself. Pain is an indicator. It is a sign. Body's wisdom. But most of us are ignoring everything our body's telling us and just trying to mask it and cover it up and numb that pain. When you numb the pain, you numb the joy. So even if you numb the pain, how are you going to feel any sensation? I mean, we can totally go into that conversation. That is my passion about how ultimately that's what addiction is about. It's about numbing. It's about putting a Band-Aid on it and not wanting to look at it or to deal with it. But when you get rid of one part, you get rid of the other. That's the irony of duality. This is life, polarities. When you choose good over bad, that doesn't make it good, and it's a dissing of the other. And when you can just accept everything and bring it together, neither one's going to exist in the end. So, okay, now I just went on a tangent. So she was wonderful. She took extremely good care of me. She referred me for some lab work. She put a consult in because the podiatrist, I was sharing with her, I said, they dropped the ball somehow back last year when I saw the podiatrist was supposed to send me shoe inserts for my feet because I have some issues with my feet. And when I mentioned it to the doctor, she put in the call, and then I ended up getting a pair that are for men. And so I said, it'd be nice to have women's inserts since that's what they said they didn't have available and they had to order me. Just saying, it's a small example of the little things that can go wrong when people drop the ball. She also put in the chiropractic call referral as well, because that's another area that I need to get help with. A lot of times the VA wants to put you on a set amount of chiropractic visits when in reality you need maintenance. It's about keeping you, moved. I said, I don't need to go to the chiropractor all the time. There are times I just want to go see my chiropractor who I know does a good job because I'm really I like my body, and chiropractor scared me years ago. I had a bad experience where they did something with my neck and it just felt like they were not caring how I felt afterward, and it was even worse, it seemed, after. So it took me years to go back to a chiropractor. And so she put that in, and I'm really excited about that. And I was able to get an eye appointment even sooner than I was supposed to get one. See, here's an example of how backlogged the system is. I called up a couple weeks ago asking when I could get my next appointment. When's the next appointment available that I can get an eye exam? Because I haven't had glasses in forever, and I've always worn glasses for nearsightedness, so it's seeing things in distance that I have trouble with. And I lost my glasses years ago. I don't even know what happened to them. Do you know they said December was the earliest they could see me? Excuse me? Now with this Mission Care, they're supposed to be able to give you an appointment if they can't see you within a certain reasonable amount of time. I don't know about anybody else. Do you think December is reasonable? So I went, and I also got a chance to sit with the mental health. She's a psychiatrist, and she was really lovely. And I had a really nice heart-to-heart personal conversation with her, and she asked me the questions that they ask, and she put in a consult for one of those appointments as well. I said, because interestingly enough, it's very dismissive. We talked about PTSD and how it's just assumed, when a man goes to war, he's got PTSD, but, us women, we also experience these things. But it's kind of like frowned, or not even, we don't want to hear about what you are going through. This is an experience I had, and it's exactly what I'm dealing with my appeal process, is the dismissiveness of what I brought up as things I'm dealing with, instead of taking me serious. So she put in that, and the reason I brought that up was because she was the one that told me they had a walk-in clinic for an eye clinic right up the street. And I didn't even know this. She goes, you can just walk in there and get an appointment. But I wasn't able to get an appointment the same day. Apparently they changed that policy. The good news is when I walked in, the woman said, I can check and see if I can find any canceled appointments that I could put you in for. And then she goes, as a matter of fact, I know I just saw one, so I can put you in for that. So I'm actually able to get an eye appointment April 26th. That's huge, because that means I can get my eyes checked even sooner. I mean, my entire career in the Air Force was sitting at a computer desk, close up on a computer screen. Cold environments, on computer floors. I have Raynaud's, which is a cold condition where my extremities get so cold, the blood literally, it leaves my hands and my feet, and I'm like ice cold, and I feel it in my bones. Now I could warm up, and to the touch you would say, you feel warm to me. But believe it or not, the cold remains still for me in my bones, and it's excruciating because it's hard for me to get warm. And I started really experiencing that after, even more so, right just after I got out of the Air Force. And I didn't even know there was a syndrome. I had no idea what it was. I just used to get so cold, and nobody ever told me what it was until I had a friend when I was running. I was a long distance runner for a long time. We were doing long runs, and my hands would just get cold. And one of my friends was a doctor, and he was part of our running crew over there. And he's like, let me see your hands. And he had me do this, and see how fast the blood goes in and out of your hands. And that was one of the tests. And then he did some other tests later. And I was like, whoa, I had no idea. I can find a draft in a room if it's cold. That's kind of how cold I get. So that was eye-opening back then. And yeah, it was a good day. Let me just say, I'm very grateful for the people that I encountered today, because everybody was extremely friendly, lovely. I met some beautiful people just in the halls, in the waiting rooms. I had blood work drawn. I went over to talk to Mr. Ferguson at the DAV, and he was super wonderful. Again, I'm going to have to go back over my paperwork, because now they have a new system and a new form that in order for me to try to get this appeal reopened, I not only need to put down everything all over again on a new form, but I also have to have more current backup data that shows these conditions I'm being seen for. See, now this is the other thing about the VA. Here's a paradox. Okay, this is a huge paradox too, by the way. The majority of us don't have the time. We're trying to live day by day. Some people are not as close to the VA. The Tampa VA is a good hour drive for me to begin with, but they have the best access, and all the clinics are inside that hospital and in that area. So when I go, I try to get everything I can all at once. It's difficult enough to get an appointment as a veteran, because number one, the women's clinic is also in itself a smaller clinic, so they're going to see a limited amount of people. And the whole hospital, we have this is Florida, so we have Florida snowbirds, and I call them double dippers. They live here, but they live elsewhere, and so they get to go where they live, which is probably not as saturated with veterans in their area as it is down here. So for local veterans in this area, we're sitting here going, okay, so now I have to wait to December for an eye exam or whatever the exam. I mean, it's usually over a month to get any type of appointment over here. And that's very disheartening. And so if you're somebody who, first off, doesn't have time, gets annoyed, just feels brushed off, and intimidated by the way the system is, oh, this is perfect for you, because then the VA loves denying you an appeal, because then that's the opportunity they've got, is to say, well, you haven't been seen, you haven't been seeing any doctor or going for care. But it's difficult to get in to get the care unless you go straight to the emergency room, and then that's a whole brush off system in itself too, because when I went the last time, I almost felt like, boy, did I just waste all that time sitting in the waiting room just to basically be told, oh, it's in your neck, and I don't, really think you just take some anti-inflammatories or something for it. So on top of that, you have to have records. You have to show proof. And I'm not saying that I can't do that. It's just, it's a lot of follow-up. And then, if you're trying to make a living, if you're just trying to get by day to day and live, just what's going to happen tomorrow? Am I going to have enough money for food? Am I going to have enough money for the gas to get there? And then when you get there, is the doctor going to be, considerate and caring enough to listen because he sees all these people or she sees all these people? Are they going to refer me? Are they going to believe me? Am I going to get support? Am I not? Are they going to write down in the system what it is I say versus, service member claims this, but it appears to be, I think that whatever. It's really nice when you get support. And so today was just a beautiful day. And I really appreciated, again, Mr. Ferguson for helping me, the beautiful doctors that I encountered today, and the nurses and the staff, the blood work, was it hematologists, the ones who collect blood? I met a lovely man with twin boys that were identical. Oh my gosh, he was so cute. They were only 16 months and so sweet. Really enjoyed that. And like I said, I went over to the eye clinic and they told me they were able to get me in early. I was, super excited. But ultimately, when it really boils down to it, you got to do your own due diligence. You got to take care of you. The VA is not going to turn around and volunteer something that means they have to pay you benefits, whether it's in the form of money or additional care. They really are. And I know things are changing. See, here's the thing. I'm not going to say it's always going to be like that, because when you've been burned and you become bitter, you get stuck in this mentality that because you're miserable, that you don't expect it to change, and you especially don't necessarily want it to change, because then what would you have to complain about? That in itself is an addiction to the certainty of the uncertainty, and the fact that it makes you feel like you got something attached to. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that are bitter and salty about the way they've been treated. And so when you complain, or if I've witnessed in experiences with other veterans where if I say something, it's always going to be like that, don't ever expect it to change. Well, that's an old paradigm. That's an old belief system, and I won't buy into that, because the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And I have been known to be a squeaky wheel, which has gotten me in a lot of trouble with people, with higher ups especially, even when I was in the Air Force. God forbid you question authority. At least people who think that's their authority. And they make it personal. So they make you their personal project and whipping child, or you get backlash for asking or speaking up. Don't ever stop, because you know what? In the end, truth always comes out, and people will get taken care of as a result of one whistleblower. If one person complains, there's at least 10 people who are not complaining. And so I know I'm not the only one. And when I speak up and I'm asking for help, I know my asking is going to help someone else. So again, my whole purpose of this fundraiser is so I can get my teeth taken care of, so that I can also pursue more course of action and see what else can be done in the system. Because if I don't take care of me, how can I show up and take care of others? And I truly believe, and this is something I was reflecting on yesterday after I made my other video, I was thinking about this. There's a lot of people who will point fingers and try to discredit somebody for asking for help. Or they don't want to do something, whatever it is. Do you know the underlying thing that goes through that person's mind? And I had to sit with my own stuff on this, because I know in the past my mind would go there, but I paid attention enough to go, what is it that people are willing to pay or go and do something for when they're getting something in return? And that's not necessarily something in the form of money. Sometimes it's just the form of acknowledgement and recognition. It could also be significance. Look at me, I did this. But there's always a hidden agenda in why people do things. I'm not saying bad. I'm just saying that if someone has disparaging words to say to someone and they're unwilling to support you, they're usually miserable, and they're not going to get anything out of it in their mind. So misery loves company. And if they were putting you down, in my case, if someone puts me down, says, how dare you ask for help? Whatever projections get thrown at me. And it's okay, because I still love you. just because you're not in my situation, maybe you're miserable because you know you're not being taken care of. And so there's a little bit of an envy there, or jealousy, because you're not courageous enough to ask for help. So instead you get the passive aggressive response and say, oh, look at that person. How dare they ask for help? They probably this or they probably that. They create all these stories because their hidden agenda is they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, and they'd rather get some form of attention in some way, shape, or form. And it could be just simply, look at me, I'm going to be negative, so even any attention or response I get is also good attention. Because that's a behavior and a pattern based on a trauma, and somehow that serves them, and somehow they feel significant. They get some form of needs met. And it's also, what's your hidden agenda? If you're miserable, you want everybody around you to be miserable too? You don't think that you're going to get help, so you don't want anybody else to get help? So it's really quite humbling to reflect upon the reasons why we do or don't do anything. It boils down to, we all have choice. And how we show up to one another can be in a loving space or an egoic space where really we're in the head and we're all about being right. It's being happy from the space of love, or it's being right because it's all about power. And the mind thinks that's winning. But why are we trying to compete? I'm not here to compete with anybody. I think in this world there's plenty to go around, and that I will show up and I will give back more than you can ever imagine, because I know I've been there and I know I've done it and I know I can still do it. And I'm just as willing to believe in someone else who's willing to ask, because that takes courage and vulnerability. And when someone asks for help, I know there are a lot of people who are unwilling to ask for help. A lot of people just, I was reflecting earlier about this one. How difficult it is to allow someone to help you because it shows a weakness. So somebody who pokes and provokes or tries to point out, oh, how dare I ask for money for my teeth, and try to, cut me down for other choices they think they know I've made, which they have no idea. It really boils down to, it's all about them wanting to be right. It's all about, I think I know the truth, and really nobody knows anybody else's truth. And they're trying to shame me, for they're not feeling worthy. So passive aggressively turning around and attacking someone who's already being vulnerable and courageous is a form of bullying, by the way. And that tactic is unhealthy and toxic. So if you ever find that you are willing to step up and you are willing to ask for help, and somebody tries to shame you for asking for help, and I know this video is meant for someone out there. If anybody ever tries to shame you for showing up and asking and having the vulnerability and the courage, don't take it personal. If anything, send that person love. Say, I'm sorry you don't feel strong enough. You don't have the courage enough to ask for your own help, to be loving enough toward me, because you can't be loving enough to yourself, that I'm actually doing this for you. And make that a prayer in your heart, because believe it or not, that's what they ultimately secretly wish in their heart, that they could do that. And passive aggressivity is trying to make a victim out of someone who doesn't necessarily mean you're a victim, but is already showing what they consider a weakness, and they're trying to bully you so they can feel stronger as a form of trying to make you feel weaker. It's a power trip. It's a game that the mind will play. Don't play into it, and don't be prey to it. If anything, turn that prey into a prayer. Turn it into a blessing. Turn it into love. When someone shows up with the negative comments, I love you. It costs nothing. It takes more energy to come up with these negative stories and tailspins than it does to just step into your personal power and your heart and soul and just say, you know what? I still love you. I'm still going to ask for what I need. And if you maybe stick around, maybe you'll witness, and maybe it'll inspire you to do it for yourself. And you'll find forgiveness in your heart for yourself first. Because I know for myself, anytime I've in my past felt bad for any type of projection, or whether it's mental, verbal, or otherwise, that maybe I put someone down, I know the first thing that comes up is, gosh, I wish I'd been kinder. Because kindness costs nothing. And so it's been a beautiful day. I'm extremely grateful. I had a really late call for my Authentic Relationships course. But I just wanted to get on here before I go home and get ready to go to sleep. Because like I said, I've been up since 5 a.m. I am committed to taking care of my well-being, as I recommend and hope to inspire those of you out there who see what I'm doing. And like I said, every little bit counts. If you can't donate some money, sharing this video, inviting your friends, whoever out there, and you know what? Like I said, every little bit counts. If you got information, you know someone, I'm open to suggestions, I'm open to options. Hey, if you got miles and you want to send me somewhere you say it's cheaper to get my teeth done, I'll take that too. I am open to receiving. And I'm not always that open to receive. I'm still working on that part. It's like I said earlier, I was reflecting on relationships. It's been hard for me to receive because the idea that if someone does something for me, and the old way of thinking is that I might have to give something back. But you know what? It's called paying it forward. Never give something you're unwilling to give, that you're holding on to still when you give it and expecting that you're going to get something in return that you visually see. Because a lot of times it comes back in a different way. And it's our perfectionism that wants to see things. And again, the head wants to be right about it. So like I said, thank you so much for those of you who've shared my videos, shared my fundraiser, donated, sent me loving thoughts and beautiful comments. And like I said, every little bit counts. I'm extremely grateful. I have a beautiful community here. I've seen all of these amazing comments that I can't respond to just yet. And I just love you. I love you even if I've never met you. And kindness is really what's in my heart. And I am working on this because I know this is about structure. And I'm working on trying to have a more solid structure and healthier boundaries, because I think that's part of the structure, isn't it? And healthy boundaries isn't what people are allowed to do or not do. It's also you allowing and you receiving. That's part of a healthy boundary, is knowing when to receive instead of trying to do it all. So have sweet dreams tonight. Keep me in your prayers, and I will be updating you in the next days.